Hello, everyone. Welcome to A Different Side of the Inside. My name is Deborah, and I'm coming to you with Lonnie, and we're going to be talking about a situation that they have been going through, him and his brother and cousins, where they were sentenced over 200 years in prison, in the California prison. And we're going to be going through his life history, his background, trying to build this story so we can understand what's really happening. And our goal is to get a resentencing or get a completely just get them released from prison. They went in when they were teenagers and now they're in their 40s. Hey, Lonnie, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing, AG?
I'm doing good.
Yes.
I'm doing good. You got anything to share right now before we get into the questions?
I do. First, I want to thank you and say thank you for the relentlessness that you showed me in the pursuit of my liberation. And without you,
this call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
I would be hopeless. So thank you, and I love you eternally.
Thank you.
To my nephew Antoine and his wife Karina, for the tireless effort of chasing down information and Google searches to get me things done to assist me in coming home. I love y'all more than life. To my sister Tasha, for loving me with no stipulations, means the world to me. And I love you to pieces. My little cousin Mikey, for being one of my best advocates no matter what, for the endless love you show me on a regular basis. I can't wait to be a part of your life, and I love you. My cousin Tanisha, who we affectionately call Greta, for keeping me focused on the goal of coming home and sharing her wisdom with me, giving me great talks to listen to when I'm feeling down. Words can't express how much I appreciate you. To my beloved niece, who you know we lost a few years ago, Tarika, that was my rock. I love you more than you ever know. To my nephews, Darren and Lil Gil, who we also lost. I still remember our last conversations that were warm and happy, and I would cherish them forever. Y'all are the reason for me continuing to push the way I push. And your soul isn't here anymore, but your heart should still beating for me. To my sister Mary, who we call Nana Poo, who was my surrogate mother when my mom died. I never questioned your love for me and Norvell. This world has no better big sister, and I love you. Finally, to the countless people that love me and want the best for me, I thank you for your love and support. And throughout this podcast, we will embark on my life from the beginning to the middle and my hopes for the future, with every human being a part of it. So strap in and enjoy a different side of the inside.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Lonnie, I want you to share with our listeners, because we're going to build on this story, and I want you to share with some of the things that you went through in your childhood, because you experienced a lot of tragedies and a lot of hard times. And so I just want to start asking some questions and, take your time. And to our listeners, you're going to hear, because he's calling from prison, so you're going to hear some interruptions and what have you, but, it is what it is.
Right.
So first, I just want to ask, what age were you when your dad was killed?
I was 5 years old when my father was stabbed to death in a local park. And my only recollection, of that tragedy was seeing him on the ground dead and the funeral pretty much. But to answer your question, I was only 5 years old.
Okay. And what age were you when your mom passed?
Well, my mother and father died a year apart, so I was 6 years old when my mom passed. And of course, you know that she died from obesity issues and congestive heart failure. And as my granny put it, she died from a broken heart, pretty much, when my father was killed the year before.
Yes, I remember those times. It was very hard for the whole family, especially for your
Right.
mom when your dad was killed. Can you
Right.
remember during that time, because it was a year apart, can you remember, even
Yeah.
though you were a young child, 6 years old, 5 when your dad passed, 6 when your mom passed, can you remember how it made you feel?
My clarity on how I felt is vague because I was so young and mentally underdeveloped. But I'm sure I had some level of understanding at that time. But I don't remember vividly how I felt. No.
Okay. And who were the people in your life, if you can remember, who you end up living with your grandmother, right? At that time.
Yes, ma'am.
And so, and then you had another grandmother, your father's mother. So were they the people
Yes.
that really gave you strength and security during that time?
They did. And my maternal and paternal grandmothers are some of the finest black women that I've ever met in my life. And they made me feel safe. They made me feel nurtured. They made me feel cared for. And honestly, the love that they showed me throughout my childhood, I haven't felt that love since. But Lonnie Austin and Mary Helen Martin, they were phenomenal people. And they did their best to raise a productive grandson. They did.
Yes, they did. So after going to live with your grandmother, and you had some security there, things was going pretty good. How old were you when your grandmother passed?
That was 1988, so I was 11 when when Mary Helen passed away, and I lived with her, but she shared custody with my grandmother Ellen, and my father's mother would pick up me and my brother, his two sons, and have us for the weekend and return us back to Mary Helen on Sunday nights.
Mm-hmm. And what happened after she passed? There was another. So now we have 3 people in your life that were very important, and they have passed.
Right.
So now you're moving on to another household. And who took you in then? You and your brother and your sisters.
That was my auntie Charlotte, and that was my mother's sister. And she said, like you said, she took in my brother and I, and my sisters. And I think that was the beginning of the transition of me just turning from good to bad.
Mm-hmm. And can you remember when that happened? When I'm not saying the exact date, but could you remember when that happened? When your thinking, the way you were thinking, your perception and everything. When did it change where you kind of just did things without thinking, or did things just hanging out or whatever?
Well, I think, after my maternal grandmother passed away, Mary, and it just went from loving and caring and nurturing and kisses and hugs to, basically feeling abandoned. And I feel that when I lived with my auntie Charlotte, there was so much going on. There was so much traffic in the house. And, with the addition of me and my brother and my sisters, she already had her own children. And she had my auntie Mary's 3 sons as well. So there was a lot of chaos that was going on. And I never really felt that embrace
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
It wasn't that my auntie started getting tried. It was just she had her own children that she was raising at the time, and it kind of took away from the attention that she could give us, as a natural nurturer, because she had to do that to her own children. And that's when I started realizing that the loss of my mother and father would really, really be a turning point in my life at that time.
Okay, and how many children were in that household during that time? I remember it was a lot of them.
It was my auntie started 6 kids, with my mother 6 kids, and my auntie Mary's 3 sons. So that's what, 12, 15, and then we had my auntie Bobby, who was a regular drug user. We had a couple of her sons, so it was 17 people in one house at the time.
Yeah, and I remember those times. It was really chaotic. There was a lot of stuff going on. And for people to understand, you putting all the responsibility on one person, one adult, that's just a hard thing to deal with. So can you remember, because you said you started feeling kind of disconnected and started feeling like, hey, I'm just kind of on my own. When was the first time that you kind of went out there and got into some trouble?
I was in, I think the same year my grandmother Mary passed away, and I got in trouble, and I took a $20 bill from someone at a gas station, and I was arrested. And when I went home, I got punished for a whooping, for doing that. And in my mind and in my heart, if this is the only punishment that I'm going to get, then I might as well keep doing what I'm doing. And, it just started a pattern of getting into, minor infractions and stuff like that, running from the police and, out there in the streets hustling, doing a lot of crazy stuff. And, I met people on the streets that were like-minded as me. So we kind of formed our own little get-together, and, we were doing the same thing. It started out as, us building go-karts and, building bikes, and it turned into, burglarizing little stores and breaking into homes and stuff like that. And, it just kind of elevated from there.
Yeah. So were you and your brother and your cousin together doing things during that time? Or was the incident that landed y'all in the situation now the first time y'all did something together?
No. Me and my brother and my cousin that lived with my grandmother at the time, we were always tight and close-knit. But, my little cousin Mikey was too young to run the streets, and my little cousin Jeffrey was too young to run the streets. So it was, me, my brother, and a couple other of my cousins that were running the streets a lot together.
Okay. And so after you were getting in trouble here and there, was there anyone really concerned about you staying out at night? Were you out at night? And let me back that up. Were you out at night, or were you doing this stuff during the day?
I was out.
At night?
I was out anytime I wanted. During the daytime, noontime, nighttime, whatever. But the phone is going to hang up, so I'm going to call right back.
Okay, we're going to pause and wait for him to return. Okay, we're back. Lonnie, okay. So how was school when you were going to school? How was school? Did you like school?
I did go to school, and believe it or not, when I went to school, I actually listened, and I picked up on a lot of things. But I think the only problem was, once you get a taste of the streets, education becomes secondary. And I don't feel that there was anyone there that can actually keep me in school, in elementary and